It's the Week 13 edition of the Phil Steele Show. We are live on the Varsity Channel on YouTube, and we're brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. If you're with us live, go ahead and jump in the chat. We want to hear all your picks. Tell us who you like. You can yell at me. You can tell me I'm crazy for taking Ole Miss last week. Phil tried to warn me. It's all fair game in the chat. Just let us know how you feel there. Phil, 2-1 on the top three last week. Just a great run here over the last 2 months. We've got an 8-week run of 19-4-1 on the top three. That's pretty good stuff there. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the 19-4-1. That's for sure. Like I said, I wish my press box customers were 19-4-1. They just went 5-3 last week. But I'm very happy that this is doing well. And let's hope we get another at least 2-1 week this week. I believe that's 8 straight winning weeks, right?
That's right. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you've got going on at the site right now? You mentioned the press box. What's happening at philsteele.com right now?
Hey, I appreciate that, Trip. Yeah, if you're looking for more free plays, you can go get take the Phil Steele Plus tour with selections. Now, the free plays went 3-1 last week, so they're now 21 wins, 9 losses, and 1 tie on the Phil Steele Plus tour. And the quick hitters, 3-2 last week, now 31-14 over the last 8 weeks for the quick hitters. 6 selections, 6 quick hitters this week. And if you're a Phil Steele Plus member, 12 overall best bets. It's the biggest card of the year, and it's the biggest card of the year for the selections as well. So check it all out. Take the Phil Steele Plus tour with selections absolutely free right now at philsteele.com.
Phil, it's the season of giving, man. I mean, you're just giving out free picks. Like you were a patron saint right now.
Well, David, glad to have you back this week. I get a little rest. Maybe my picks will be a little bit better this week since I've got you here. I'm not doing all the heavy lifting. I think you're still on the road, though, right? You're in Arkansas. Is that right?
I am still on the road. I'm in Arkansas until Saturday. Last week was unable to join the show because I was mid-flight into Fayetteville during the show. I tried to get Wi-Fi on the plane, but it didn't work. Technology just let me down. I tried to join you guys from 35,000 feet, but was unable to do so. I meant to parachute a pick in, and I completely forgot until after the show. But I'm currently on a 4-week winning streak and above 500 at 10-9. So hopefully, just like Phil, we'll keep that rolling this week.
You're on a heater, that's for sure. Why don't we go ahead and jump in to the Week 13 slate? Man, only got like 2 more of these. Pretty wild. David, Great. You want to take us away to Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely. One game on the Thursday card tonight, Phil. We got Louisiana at Arkansas State. And for those confused, that's Louisiana in Lafayette, but they go by Louisiana for their athletic teams. The Ragin' Cajuns at the Red Wolves. Arkansas State favored by 2.5 at home, 7:30 kick. Phil, both these teams still have a chance to make a bowl game. The Ragin' Cajuns, they're hot right now, too. They've won their last 2. Arkansas State, they just lost at home to Southern Miss. Looking to get right at home. What's the play tonight?
Yeah, I think we've got 2 really interesting quarterbacks. Jalen Rayner entered the year, and he lost his top running back at the start of the year. And also, if you go through the first 4 games, Corey Rucker wasn't really doing much. And now Corey Rucker's getting about 100 yards a game. And Arkansas State had a lot of close wins. They came back and got the late touchdown against Texas State. They got a late scored against South Alabama. And so they're actually down 14-0 in the fourth quarter in that game. And they're within range of a bowl. And then for Louisiana, Walker Howard went out in game 1, the LSU transfer. They went to Daniel Beal, but then Lunch took over. Lunch Winfield, he's been pretty exciting at QB. Last week, they put up 42 points against Texas State. So I think it's a really good game. Should be higher scoring, you would think. And I'm going to go with Louisiana to pull the upset here. I think they might be the stronger team overall.
All right, let's jump to some ACC action on Friday night. We've got Florida State at NC State. We talk about this all the time. Carter Finley Stadium. What an environment, how hard it is to win there. But see, Florida State's got it figured out this year, Phil, because they're not ranked. It's ranked teams. It's big games that you have to worry about Carter Finley for. Florida State very smartly coming into this one unranked. It's still going to be a rowdy atmosphere, I'm sure, in Raleigh. The Pack home dogs. Earlier this week, I saw Florida State laying 3.5. Now I'm seeing 5.5 out there. NC State's won the last 3 in this series and 5 of the last 6 straight up. They haven't lost to FSU and Raleigh since 2016. But the Pack really struggled last week against Miami. They just had a hard time getting the ball across midfield. Florida State was able to beat Virginia Tech and also able to cover last week. You better keep an eye on Deuce Robinson if you're NC State, though. That defense is really struggling, and he is a legitimate A1 playmaker for the Noles down there. So they need to keep an eye on him. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, and I like Florida State. As you mentioned, Carter Finley, a tough place to go into. We saw that with Georgia Tech a few weeks back. And do you think Florida State lost those 4 games on purpose so they would come in here on ranked trip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good strategy. Good strategy. Last week my computer was really high on Florida State over Virginia Tech. I used it on the Phil Steele Plus tours. The computer wanted to use it, wouldn't let it play. And Florida State, as you mentioned, rolled. I do like what I'm seeing out of Deuce Robinson. Castellanos looks good. And NC State just got steamrolled by Miami of Florida last week. They have some talent, but with Smothers out, you wonder a little bit about that. So I'm going to say that Florida State can handle this trip. The spread's low. As long as it stays well under a touchdown like it is, I like Florida State minus the points.
All right, one other game on Friday night, late night out in Sin City. It's Hawaii at UNLV. UNLV favored by 2.5 right now at home. The top of the Mountain West is packed going into the final couple weeks of the season. 6 teams jockeying for 2 spots in the Mountain West Championship game, including Hawaii and UNLV. Generally with Hawaii, we know the story. If they're on the mainland, go away from the Rainbow Warriors, but they're coming off a bye and they're 7-2 against the spread this year. So what do you do tonight?
Yeah, and I think if you follow these 2 teams closely this year, UNLV sort of had a fortunate year. I think Dan Mullen's got a rabbit foot in his pocket. They've been pulling out a lot of close wins during the year. Late touchdown against Air Force got them the win. Even the opening game against Idaho State, Idaho State led that thing in the 4th quarter. I haven't been blown away with UNLV, but Hawaii I have been. And, as I mentioned at the start of the year, this is Timmy Chang's best team by far. They're playing good defense, and they've got the passing game. They had a couple early losses when Alejandro wasn't 100%. Remember, he came back in the 4th quarter. He threw 2 interceptions against Fresno State in his first game back. Since then, they're 4-1. They have won on the road at Air Force. They did win on the road against Colorado State, so they've learned how to travel to the mainland on this one. And frankly, I've just been more impressed with Hawaii overall this year. So I like Hawaii to go in to UNLV and come out of there with a solid win.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is you like Hawaii in the game, but if you're going to the craps table, bring Dan Mullen with you.
That's right. There you go. I like that, David.
That's awesome. Let's all right, we're moving into the noon slate on Saturday here, fellas. Noon kick in Blacksburg. Miami and Virginia Tech. The Hokies in the news this week, naming James Franklin the new man in charge there, so I'm sure they're pretty excited for the future. But this week, it's a tough test with the Hurricanes in town. 17.5-point spread for the road favorites. Miami, obviously, they've got to win out, period. They have to win their games. They've handled business the last 2 weeks against Syracuse and NC State. Going to finish the year with back-to-back road trips. They've got a road trip to Pitt on deck next week. You look at the series here, last 10 years, it's been all Miami, 8-2 straight up. They've covered in 6 of those. The spread might look a little familiar, too. I think it was 17.5 last season, and Virginia Tech should have won that game.
Yeah.
They were a huge underdog on the road. They led by 10. Go ahead, Phil.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah, they led late in the game. Questionable call at the end. Can Virginia Tech find that magic again? I don't know. It just feels like they're way outmanned here.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to – this Miami team, if you look at the overall talent, they clearly are the most talented team in the ACC. They've got the defense with Bain and Messidor coming in off the edge, holding opponents to 141 yards per game below their average, number 3 in the country. Offensively, they've got a big old offensive line. These guys are massive. They just missed out on being one of the Joe Moore finalists this year, semifinalists this year. But they've got the run game. I like what Fletcher's doing. They've got the receiving core and Carson Beck having a solid season as well. And they need style points. There's going to be 10-win Big Ten teams, 10-win SEC teams. There'll be 2-3 loss SEC teams going to be battling for a spot. They need big wins. And if they continue to win impressively, like they completely shut down NC State last week. I had Miami as one of my press box plays last week. And, I've got 12 TVs I'm watching. I usually put my main games, the ones that matter to me most, in front of me. I was able to take that Miami game and put it over here on set 12 because I didn't even have to worry about it anymore. Total domination. So I think even Enter Sandman playing in Blacksburg, VT will give up a fight, but Miami, as you mentioned, Trip, really is a more talented team. And I'll take Miami to win this one by more than 3 touchdowns.
All right, over to the SEC in the noon window. Number 22, Missouri, at number 8, Oklahoma. Phil, your number one surprise team, the Oklahoma Sooners. They're just firing on all cylinders right now. You knew it from the start of the year. They just beat Tennessee in Knoxville and Alabama in Tuscaloosa in back-to-back games. I know there was a bye in between. I know. But meanwhile, Missouri, they did whoop on Mississippi State last weekend, but that offense has not been the same. Ahmad Hardy's not only had one 100-yard rushing game in recent weeks, and Bo Perbula, he's doubtful to play this weekend. So I think it's play on with the Sooners, right?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma here. And I think if you look at the two teams, this one I would say you have to look at schedules sometimes. And Oklahoma has played an absolutely killer schedule this year. Non-conference, they're playing Michigan. And then they play Texas and Mississippi and Tennessee and Alabama. And all season long, it's one of the SEC's toughest schedules. Who's got the easiest schedule in the SEC? Well, it'd be Missouri. And Missouri took care of a cupcake first 5 games and opened up 5-0, mostly in dominating fashion. But then in their next 4 games, when they started playing some good teams, they went 1-3 with their only win in overtime against Auburn. And even last week against Mississippi State, that was a close game. It was about, I think, a 7-point game. And then all of a sudden, a couple of turnovers turned into touchdowns, and Missouri rolled in that one, 49-27. I think you hit it on the head, David. If you look at Hardy, who had 300 yards rushing last week, he's only had a very few 100-yard games against the legitimate SEC teams like they're playing this week. So I think Oklahoma's game plan shut him down. And when you look offensively, I think we're going to see John Mateer get better and better as the weeks goes on. I also like what Satania is doing at receiver, as well as return man, very dangerous there. And they're starting to pick up on a run game as well. So I think Oklahoma is the more complete team, has played the tougher schedule at home, playing with revenge. I like Oklahoma in this one, minus the points.
David mentioned Perbula. He's doubtful. Is that correct? I was hearing, I thought they were going to get him back.
They had a chance to play this week.
I looked at the injury report and I saw doubtful.
Yesterday I was hearing that he's probably going to be back, and I just mentioned it because I've seen a lot of people this week on Missouri right now, and I just feel like I like Oklahoma here too, Phil, just because last week Ahmad Hardy, he got going, but it was against Mississippi State. You saw those guys were banged up from that Georgia game too, so I feel like maybe Missouri just kind of had that perfect setup last week. And maybe they're a little overvalued this week, but yeah, I'm also leaning Sooners in that one. We're still in the noon slate here. Back to the ACC. Big game in Dallas at noon Saturday for SMU. The Ponies laying around a field goal with Louisville in town. I'm seeing 2.5 right now. SMU needs this win to stay in the ACC race. Coming off a bye, maybe some momentum on their side after that upset of Miami back on the 1st of November. Then they had a rout on the road at BC after that. Also, maybe a chance just to get Kevin Jennings kind of, closer to being as healthy as he can be. The guy, we mention it all the time. He's always limping around, but he's such a gamer. Louisville, they've still got to be scratching their heads, wondering how they let it slip away against Clemson because, at the end of the game, they forced that point. Clemson fumbles the punt. And then they set the cards up. They still couldn't make the field goal. They're 3-0 on the road straight up this year, but I just feel like this is a good spot for SMU at home. Yeah,
I'm going to agree with you on that, Trip. I think when you look at Louisville this year, and I've mentioned it in previous shows, just haven't been blown away with the Cardinals this year. They are playing good defense. Isaac Brown being out hurts, but Kewan Brown has looked good. But really, where's their best game? Well, their best game was at Miami, where they won by 3. But other than that, I thought James Madison outplayed them. A couple of games they had double-digit deficits and came back to win. I'm talking about the Pitt game and the Virginia Tech game. And then they get upset by Cal and beat by Clemson at home. They played a good game against Clemson. I'll give them that. Clemson's a very talented team. But now you're going on the road with no hopes of the ACC. And the thing about Lashley, he likes the winning home games is huge to him. Even the final game last year, which was basically meaningless when they played California in the season final. They had the ACC title game on deck, a win in the ACC title game, you go to the playoff, and yet they blasted Cal 38-6 in that. And I do think Kevin Jennings will be healthier for this. I think SMU is rounding into form. Remember last year, they started really slow those first 4 games. Then they turned into the playoff team later in the year. And I think we're going to see that here. I like SMU minus the 2.5.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten for the first time on this show. Minnesota at Northwestern. The Wildcats favored by 3.5 at home. Still a noon kickoff. Phil, you're not really sure of a side here in this one. What do you have on Minnesota Northwestern?
Yeah, when I look at this matchup, I look at Northwestern has been playing better football right now. Their defense is solid. And look at a run game as well. I like Komalafi and Hyman at running back. They're doing well. Preston Stone is sort of cutting down on the interceptions a little bit, which is huge. And I think overall they're playing better. When you look at Minnesota, they haven't had a lot of good games this year, and they haven't traveled well. When they went to Iowa, they lost 41-3. They lost to Oregon by 29. They lost to Ohio State by 38. Those are all really good teams, but they also lost to Cal by 13. So they don't play well away from home. But Minnesota's got talent. Darius Taylor did return to the lineup against Oregon last week, and really that's been the key to their run game is when Darius Taylor's healthy. I think these two teams close talent-wise. I always struggle laying a lot of points with Northwestern. One of you two's got to pick this game. I'm not picking it.
I'm going to take this one, Phil, and you gave a lot of the great football numbers, so I'm going to give the trend numbers. Look, first of all, stay away from the over-under in this one. It's 39.5. I know it's tempting, but both teams are 50-50 this year on over-under, so stay away from 39.5. With the spread, Minnesota's been a terrible team against the spread. They're 2-7. Northwestern is 6-3. This is also probably Northwestern's last shot to get bowl eligible. They've lost 3 straight. At Illinois next week to finish is tough. And Minnesota has absolutely nothing to play for. This is all on Northwestern. Give me the Wildcats minus 3.5.
There we go. David, is that a lock of the year, David?
No, not definitely not. I don't think I'd ever play Northwestern for a lock on anything. I'm not as crazy as Tripp over there.
Yeah.
All right. I know how this worked out for me last time. I had to buy a Tulane hoodie.
Oh,
but I'm on the complete opposite side here.
Tripp.
I like Minnesota. Listen, have you ever heard of losing the same game twice?
Yes.
Northwestern's going to lose the same game twice. They are coming off a heartbreaking loss. Did you see the end of that game against Michigan? I mean, they did everything they could to win that game, and to have it snatched right at the last second like that on a field goal, I think that's going to deflate Northwestern. I actually really like Minnesota plus the 4 in this one. Is that the if we can find them like 3.5? I would take Minnesota. We can do a lunch bet. It can't be this week because I've got a game on Friday, but we'll have a lunch bet on this one.
All right, lunch bet. I'll take Northwestern minus 3.5. You get Minnesota.
All right, that's a bet.
There it is. Okay.
All right, let's jump to the Big 12. Still in the noon slate here. Kansas Jayhawks getting 4 points on the road at Iowa State. Both teams here coming off a bye. Kansas still needs a win for bowl eligibility. I'm still not sure what we're making in that of. Anymore these days. I don't know how much it means to these guys, but both teams about the same against the spread, 4-6, 4-5-1. I still like Jalen Daniels. He does it all for Kansas. Their coach was talking about in the presser this week, really focusing on third downs, especially red zone offense, not settling for field goals. They've kind of had some issues over the last couple of weeks, but pretty tight line here. 3.5 to 4 is what I'm seeing. What do you like in this one, Phil?
I like Iowa State here. I think when you look at Iowa State, they were looking really good at the start of the year. They blew out Arizona, beat Iowa, big-time win there, beat Kansas State, and that was a Kansas State team that was still 100% coming in the season full of expectations. And then they got banged up. They were missing 6 defensive starters against Cincinnati. They were still banged up against Colorado, blew a lead. They blew the lead against BYU. BYU got 2 late touchdowns to win that one. And then they blew the lead against Arizona. But overall, I think Rocco Beck needs to play like Rocco Beck. He's only got a 12-9 ratio this year. I think he'll be better. But the rest I think is huge. The fact that they had the bye week last week to get healthy for this one. I think we're going to see the healthiest they've been. And remember last year, Campbell lost all those defensive starters, but had them playing really good down the stretch. I think we're going to see Iowa State play its best game of the second half of the season this week. And when I look at Kansas, they did play good against Arizona. They gave them a heck of a game on the road. In fact, they were winning that one late. But I think Iowa State's an even better team. So I'm going to go with Iowa State minus the points at home.
All right, sticking in the Big 12 as we dip an hour later to the 1 p.m. slate. Baylor at Arizona. Wildcats favored at home by 6.5, but you've got the number one passing offense in the Big 12 in Baylor, Phil, versus the number one pass defense in Arizona. Then you look at the other side. Baylor's defense has been a sieve. They've allowed 34 points in 4 of their last 5 games. Meanwhile, Arizona, you look at their offense, they've won 3 straight. They can certainly score 2. I know the total's high at 61.5, but is this a classic Big 12 overplay?
Yeah, I think over is a really good play in this game. Baylor has so many weapons on offense. Sawyer Robertson has got a 29-9 ratio. He could throw the ball to Josh Cameron, one of the best wide receivers in the Big 12. Ashlyn Hawkins is another guy that's one of the top receivers. And how about tight end Michael Trigg? And then the thing I like about Baylor offensively, Bryson Washington, I think he had 9 carries 2 weeks ago. He only had a little more than that last week. He's finally healthy. He was banged up midseason. And they've actually, the one thing I thought Baylor was missing at the start of the year was that second running back to emerge. Remember last year they had Washington and Pendergrass. They really needed that second one to emerge. Well, they got a true freshman in Caden Knighton, a VHT, who's really come on the last couple of weeks. So I think the Washington and Knighton combo, this is a potent Baylor offense. Now, as you mentioned, David, they're struggling, slowing down teams. It's interesting. Utah led last week's game against Baylor 35-20, and they got into the red zone. And the announcer goes, this is the first time they've been in the red zone the entire game. You wouldn't think that with 35 points. They gave up a lot of big plays. And Arizona can get the big plays with Fafita and Mahdi. But I think overall, Baylor's got more weapons on offense, is capable of winning on the road. I like the fact they're the underdog here. So I like Baylor, but I also like your call there, David. I like the over in this one as well.
Yeah, it feels like too many points there for me that Arizona's laying. I'm with you on Baylor. Let's talk about Washington State and JMU. On the road, Wazoo's on the road at JMU. This is another 1 o'clock kick in Harrisonburg. You talk about a weird season for a team. Washington State beat Idaho by 3. They turned around and crushed San Diego State. Competitive for 3 quarters in the Apple Cup, but they end up not covering. Their last road trip, they almost beat Ole Miss in Oxford. Then they turn around the very next week, almost beat Virginia in Charlottesville, and they go back to the West Coast and they lose to Oregon State. If you've got the Cougs figured out, you're doing better than me. JMU 9-1 overall, 7-3 ATS. They've been taking care of business. I don't really think that Washington State's going to be able to move the ball on the Dukes, but my only hesitation here is just Washington State. It seems like the better the team is that they play, the better they elevate their game. They seem to keep those games close. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, Washington State's a pure under team. And what I mean by that is they have an outstanding defense. They're holding opponents to 99 yards per game, below their average. But offensively, they actually gained 12 yards below what their opponent allows normally. So really a weak offense, strong defensive team. Now, last week, I mentioned that I used James Madison as the Stephen Hartzell play on the Phil Steele tour, and they just absolutely crushed App State. I mean, that was another game where I had it on one of my main TVs. At the half, it's 27-0, and they have a 327 to 40-yard edge. James Madison has an absolutely dominating defense. In fact, they are number 1 in the country holding opponents below their season average this year at 148 yards per game below average. Now, offensively, they can run the football well. They are averaging over 5 yards per carry. They've got a quarterback that can dissect you with Alonzo Barnett. So they really are the complete team. I think James Madison should be that playoff team. And just like Miami, they need to win and win big. If you're Washington State's kids, you just got to be wondering about this whole season at this point, traveling all the way across the country late in the year, Thanksgiving coming up, things like that. I think the more focused team, the home team, and the better team. At least they've got both the offense and the defense. And I think their defense is even better in Washington State. I like James Madison minus the points in this one.
I have two things to say about James Madison. One, Bob Chesney going to look really good in a different color next year. Number two, I am so glad that there is not a college football playoff play-in game between the top two teams from the group of 5 conferences, because that would pit right now, my Tulane Green Wave versus James Madison. And I don't want that smoke right now from JMU because I think they're the better team. Right now, obviously, Tulane is the inside path to the CFP, but still 2 weeks to go. We're not talking about the rankings. I'm just saying it right now. I think JMU is really good, and I like that play with JMU at home against Washington State. On to the Big Ten slate in the 3:30 window, possibly the game of the entire weekend. Number 15 USC at number 7 Oregon. Ducks laying 10.5 at Autzen. A huge game for both of these teams. They try and jockey to be that third team out of the Big Ten to make the college football playoff. But Phil, Oregon at home, nearly unbeatable. They've won 18 of their last 20, and everyone's going to focus on the 2 quarterbacks in this one. You got Jaden Mayava for USC. You got Dante Moore for Oregon. Yes, they are both elite quarterbacks, but I think Oregon's running game could be the difference here. What do you think about that, Phil?
Yeah, I think Oregon probably has a better run game. When you look at USC, they got depleted. King Miller, though, is doing a hell of a job for a walk-on running back. And they've got one of the best receivers in the country, Mekhi Lemon. I like the fact you brought up that both teams have dominating quarterbacks. I think Oregon does have a better run game and a better defense, and they're at home in Autzen. So that's a lot of advantages there. This is a really good USC team, and it's not your typical Lincoln Riley USC team, which has been one that's pure passing and sort of weak at the line of scrimmage. They actually are strong at the line of scrimmage. And they do have the run game, like I said, with King Miller, not quite to Oregon standards, but they're also strong defensively at the line of scrimmage. And Riley likes the fact that they're winning these games against physical teams like Michigan, like Iowa, at the line of scrimmage, which has really been impressive. The winner of this game is in the playoff. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Whoever wins this game is in. And I think that's a big thing. And I'm actually going to lean with USC plus the points just because the spread's, 10.5 at this point?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we've got 2 really quality teams. And I got to say this, when Oregon hosted Indiana, I was thinking, hey, Oregon's a better team. They're at home. They're in Autzen Stadium. Probably lent a little bit within Oregon, but this one I'm going to take the points. I'll take USC.
All right, let's jump to the SEC. Arkansas and Texas, at the very least. It's going to be an entertaining game in Austin at 3:30 because if you've got Arkansas involved, you're going to see something happen. The Hogs, they turn the ball over about as much as anybody in college football, but they can also move it on just about anybody. They were slowed down a little last week with LSU. LSU's that pass defense still holding pretty strong, held them to 165 through the air. Arkansas still the best 2-8 team you're ever going to see. Right up there with Florida State in 2024. I think they're a little bit better than the Noles were last year, though. Texas does take better care of the ball. I still like that defense, but I don't know, Phil. I was seeing 9.5 earlier. Right now, I'm seeing the numbers 8.5. Even at 8.5, that feels like a lot for Texas to be laying right now.
Yeah, I think anything over a touchdown, I'm taking the Hogs. And if you look at Arkansas, and I think you hit it on the head, turnovers have really done them in. Remember, against Ole Miss, they were driving for the game-winning score. They fumbled. Yeah. Against Memphis, they basically are set up for the game-winning field goal, and they fumble. Now, the Notre Dame game was a no-show, but other than that, they played Tennessee within 3 points. They played Texas A&M within 3 points, put up 500 yards. And I remember everybody after that game was like, wow, Texas A&M defense is not very good. No, Texas A&M has a ridiculously good defense. They just put up 527 yards on them. Once again, the Auburn game, they're winning in the fourth quarter. 2 interceptions were the key to that loss. Mississippi State, they were up double digits in the fourth quarter, ended up losing by 3. And last week I used Arkansas plus the points over LSU. And I thought Arkansas was going to win the game outright, except for those pesky turnovers where they were -3. Taylon Green is elusive, can throw the football. I like the way Washington's running the ball at running back. Now, defense is always a question, but they actually have played better. They haven't allowed 400 yards in over 3 games. That's pretty good for their defense. Texas's offense is getting going, but this is a sandwich spot. You're off that big game against Georgia, and then next week, Texas A&M, a massive game. And now you're a big favorite in this one. I agree with you 100%, Trip. I'll take Arkansas plus the points.
Yeah, I think you have to roll Arkansas here. I was just at the Arkansas football coaches show last night with Bobby Petrino and those guys in Fayetteville. I'm telling you, they are as fired up for this game as they've ever been. This is an old rivalry. You got some classic games back in the 60s that Arkansas just loves to tout, going all the way back 60 years when they beat Texas in some of the best games in Razorback football history. I think you're absolutely right, Phil. Arkansas gonna cover that lofty spread.
Well, hey,
Southwest
David.
Conference back then, David.
Yeah, that's right.
Before you jump to the next game, David, the chat is mentioning it right now. You think there's any chance they run it back with Petrino again? You think he'll get the head coaching job? Phil,
I don't want to put my name on that. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
I think the offense has been plenty good.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen there. I usually don't speculate on a lot of the off-season stuff. I don't waste my time until the papers are signed and things are in. That's why I never look at, like, when a freshman recruit makes a commitment. I'm like, why are you even putting it out there? This kid's going to change his mind 3 times.
20
and
times.
then even when he signs, he's probably going to be on a different team 1 year after that. I'm not wasting energy on that crap.
Yeah.
Phil, you're exactly right. One of the players at the show last night for Arkansas was originally committed to Baylor. He's from Carthage, Texas. And then his offensive coordinator went to Arkansas. And he said, screw that. I'm going to Fayetteville. So, like, that's exactly what happens. Phil, you're 100% correct, as usual. All right, let's go to Nashville. Kentucky invading number 14 Vanderbilt. 9.5 is the line that I'm seeing right now for the Doors. You talked about a sandwich spot for Texas. Sandwich spot for the Vanderbilt Commodores before they get Tennessee in Knoxville this weekend. A little sleepy. They're 5-1, though, as a home favorite this year, but Kentucky's won 3 straight. They're playing better. They have bowl game aspirations. It's not all lost for the folks in Lexington. So what do you think here, Phil? Kentucky going to cover, or is Diego Pavia going to get right before that matchup in state against Tennessee?
Well, I hate to correct you, David, but it's not a sandwich spot. A sandwich spot would be have a big game.
No, you're right.
Game
I said
in
the
between,
wrong.
another big game. They're off a bye.
You're right.
And I don't think they're looking ahead to Tennessee. This is an Vanderbilt team where if they win this game, they tie for the best overall record Vanderbilt's ever had with 9 wins, and they've got a shot at 10. And they still have a realistic shot at making a playoff, because how do you keep a 10-2 SEC team out of the playoffs? So I think Vandy's got a lot to play for. They're fired up for Kentucky. But with that said, I still lean with Kentucky. I like the way that Cutter Boley has been playing these last 3 games. They went into Auburn. Their defense played well, as usual. And they came out there with a win by a touchdown. They blew out Florida. And then last week, I used them against Tennessee Tech. They were minus 22.5. I wasn't blown away, but that was Tennessee Tech. They still covered, but it wasn't that impressive. They got McGowan and Dowdell at running back. They've got the defense, and Cutter Boley's really playing well. Vandy's playing with pressure. This is a ridiculous territory for them. You need to win to make the playoff. Pressure. I'm going to lean with Kentucky plus the points. And keep in mind, Vanderbilt's SEC home wins this year. They beat LSU by 7. They beat Missouri by 7. They beat Auburn by 7. So let's call Vanderbilt by 7 in this game and take the points.
Okay.
Yeah, like was able to get Kentucky at 10.5.
Nice.
Back on Tuesday. So
good job, Trip.
We'll see how that works
points
out.
are valuable, buddy.
Absolutely.
Trip likes to go shopping. All right. He's a big shopper. I know he does all the shopping for his household. He's a big time shopper.
You got to find those lines, man. You got to find every angle you can. All right, back to the ACC. In the 3:30 window, we got the battle for the Victory Bell in Chapel Hill on Saturday, Duke and UNC. Duke, just another huge letdown last week at home. Big game against Virginia. Can we just tackle someone, please? I mean, that's what you do on defense. You see the guy with the ball, and you try to get him on the ground. I don't know. That seems to have been lost on Duke this year. I really liked Duke last week. We talked about it on the show, so apologies to anyone who took that pick.
Hold up.
Okay.
You just said the word "we" with Duke. Pick a team, buddy. Florida State or Duke. You get one, not both.
Can we tackle someone? I'm addressing Duke.
Well,
I'm not with. I'm only with Duke in basketball season. I'm not with them until it's.
That's what I thought.
But look, seriously, at that and the Ole Miss pick. Sorry, guys, that's my bad. We always preface this. If I do go opposite of Phil in these games, just trust Phil because it never works out for me when I do that. But UNC, not much better last week. They lost 28-12 at Wake Forest. Obviously, it was a lot less on the line in that game, but I still think Duke is the better team here. It's under a touchdown. I would probably lean Blue Devils again, but I'm just staying away from this crap. Duke has wronged me enough this year to the point where I'm going to sit this one out. What do you like here, Phil?
I'm going to take North Carolina plus a 7, and here's the reasons why. I think they're playing good football. You go back and look at the Cal and the Virginia games. They fumbled in the end zone, could have won those, blew out Syracuse. The Stanford game, they led 20-3, gave up the back door. And then last week, a couple of plays, which turned that into a 28-12. The quarterback fumbles, 6 guys trying to pick up the ball. Wide receiver picks up the ball, runs 50 yards for a touchdown. All of a sudden wakes up 7-0. Then they tack on a touchdown with 22 seconds left in the game, which made it look like a complete blowout, but it really wasn't. I think when you look at North Carolina over the last 4 weeks, they're playing a lot better. In fact, on Phil Steele Plus, we grade games with an AGG, which is the average game grade. And that takes into account the final score of the game, the opponent, and the yards rushing, yards passing. Well, over the last 4 weeks, North Carolina is playing to a 101 or 102 average game grade over the last 4 weeks. Duke, on the other hand, is playing to a 90-something level. So basically the average game grade saying North Carolina has been playing 7 points better than Duke has the last 4 weeks, and they're at home, and they're getting 7 points. That, to me, makes it a pretty strong play on North Carolina. I think that Duke team we saw early in the year, remember that first half they had against Illinois where the defense was dominant? I don't know if that Duke team's still around. Their defense is getting a little leaky lately. I'm going to take North Carolina plus the 7.
That's putting it mildly.
I was about to say the same thing, Trip. That is putting it mildly for the Duke defense. All right, back to the Big Ten. 4 o'clock kickoff in College Park. Number 18, Michigan at Maryland. Wolverines laying 13.5 on the road. For Michigan, the downside for them, Justice Haynes likely out for at least the rest of the regular season. We'll see about, postseason aspirations for him. Now, if you look at this game as just a pick who's going to win, you've got Michigan who's won 4 straight. Maryland's lost 6 straight. So if you're picking just a team, not against the spread, I think probably you lean Wolverines here. But Michigan's laying a lot of points on the road. They're 0-2 against the spread as an away favorite this year. I think the spread might just be too lofty, Phil.
Yeah, and, when I look at this, first of all, with Michigan last week against Northwestern, how many times does a team -5 in turnovers and actually lose a game? They were dominant. They had a 496 to 245 yard edge. And yet, because of the -5 in turnovers, they needed that late field goal Tripp talked about earlier to come out of there with the win. Now, watching that game, Jordan Marshall, their running back who's taken the place of Justice Haynes, he got banged up late in the game. I wonder about his status coming into the weekend. Bryce Underwood has looked like a freshman quarterback. Now, this guy's extremely talented, but he has 7 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. So if I'm Michigan, I know I need to win this game, and I've got Ohio State on deck. I am not letting Bryce Underwood let this thing loose. So I'm playing a conservative game plan, running the football a lot. And the thing with Maryland, while they're on this losing streak that you mentioned, 6 straight, keep in mind they led Washington 20-0 in the fourth quarter. They led Nebraska in the fourth quarter. They had a 3-point loss to UCLA. And then 2 of their last 3 losses were at Indiana, at Ohio State, which are the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the country. Their quarterback, the freshman Malik Washington, has looked better. He's got a 13-7 ratio. I actually have a little more faith in him than I do Underwood for this game. So I am going to lean with Maryland plus the points over Michigan because of the look-ahead situation for Michigan and the fact that they should be rather conservative.
All right. We've got a big line for the spread in Utah, Kansas State, 17.5. The Utes, just an absolute wagon at home this year. Looked pretty good on the road last week, too, at Baylor. That's one of the games that I did have right there. I think Phil was on Utah, too, last week. No sweat cover in Waco for Utah. Kansas State, disappointing season, 5-5 overall. They struggled to put away Oklahoma State last week. At the start of the season, I would have jumped all over Kansas State plus 17.5 against anybody. I'm not so sure anymore, though. This line might actually even be bigger by the time it kicks off because Utah's just been so good at home. There's no way I could fade them here. What do you like here, Phil?
Yeah, Utah at home. They've got Muss. The student section is phenomenal. And they've got the altitude advantage. So there's a lot of good advantages playing Utah at home. My only concern was, last week Baylor did have 563 yards against them, and Devin Dampier, their quarterback, got banged up. In fact, it was Bird Ficklin the rest of the game. Of course, what we've seen out of Bird Ficklin is this guy's just as dynamic as Devin Dampier is, so they're in good shape there at QB. Kansas State, last week when I'm watching the games, guys, I in my head count good plays, bad plays, and I would say Oklahoma State had about 62 to 38% good plays against Kansas State, and Oklahoma State did. So I was thinking Oklahoma State was actually the better team last week. And then I look at the stat sheet at the end of the game, and they did have a dominant 25 to 15 first down advantage and had the yardage edge as well. So it's a Kansas State team that came in with all these expectations, but now has little to play for. And Utah's the type of team that they have the defense. They've got two of the better cornerbacks in the game. They've got one of the best offensive lines, a Joe Moore finalist candidate, 2 first-round draft picks on the O-line. They've got the run game with Wayshawn Parker, and now they've got 2 dynamic quarterbacks in Dampier and Ficklin. I'm going to go with Utah minus the points, and I think you hit it on the head, Trip. At home is the big key here.
All right, into the night slate in the Big Ten, Nebraska at Penn State. Both these teams now on their backup quarterback. Nebraska, not a whole lot to play for. Penn State, meanwhile, they need a week this week and at Rutgers next week to be bowl eligible. They just snapped that long losing skid with a win at Michigan State. So the Nittany Lions definitely still motivated. It's Penn State by 7 and a hook, though. Is that too high? Would you rather that be under a touchdown if you want to lean with Penn State at home?
Yeah, I think that might be the key. I like Nebraska here plus the points. I think we're going to get a good game. Now, Penn State, one of their keys is they want to get Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Allen is very close to becoming the all-time rushing leader at Penn State. And last week, what we saw at the end of the game against Michigan State, they were basically just running Allen, running Singleton, and letting them run the football. And Nebraska's weakness on defense has been the rush D. They were giving up 4.8 yards per carry, but I think they will be able to sneak that safety in the box and slow down Penn State. They do have an excellent pass defense, and I don't think they're threatened by Grunkemeyer throwing the football. So I think Nebraska's defense will do a good job against them. Now, in the Michigan State game, while Penn State won it 28-10, if you watch the game, 5 minutes to go, it's 14-10. It's still a ball game. You're wondering if they can come out with the win. They got a couple of big plays for a touchdown, a turnover, and another touchdown. I think they had 2 scores in the last 4 minutes of the game to make it 28-10. So not as dominant as the final score. I like going against teams that are off somewhat of a misleading final. And with Nebraska, I think they still have a lot to play for. They can still get to a 10-win season. I like what I saw to TJ Lateef. As you recall, when they played UCLA, I thought that Lateef was going to be a much better passer than people were giving him credit for. When I had talked to Coach Rule in the preseason, going over the team, he said, this kid can really spin the ball, make all the throws. And he did. He threw for over 200 yards. Emmett Johnson just will get you 100 yards every single game, and they've got a good, solid defense. I think it's going to be a close game. Come right down to the wire. Maybe Penn State can pull out a 3-point win. And really, with Penn State making a bowl game, if you think that that's their big thing, how many of these NFL guys that they have are going to sit that bowl game out? I mean, it's not like the entire team is going, boy, we really need to get to a bowl. I think avoiding a losing record would be a main thing for them. So I'm going to take Nebraska plus the points here.
All right, we've got another 7 o'clock kick, big game in the ACC, and a tight line in Atlanta for Georgia Tech and Pitt. The Jackets favored by 2.5 in Bobby Dodd. What was Georgia Tech doing last week at Boston College? I mean, the ACC needs some respect. They don't need one of their best teams on the ropes in Chestnut Hill, where they had to come from behind. They did get the win. I don't know how to feel about that. I really didn't see that going down to the wire against Boston College. But Georgia Tech We know they're going to try to run the ball as much as anybody. They like to run it. Even with their quarterback, they want to run it. Pitt's been okay against the run, Narduzzi's defense. And here's the thing. Pitt got beat up last week against Notre Dame. This is still a 7-3 team here. I don't think we want to overreact to it. Narduzzi tried to tell us that last week's game against Notre Dame was not an ACC game. So apparently he's a man of his word, because Pitt didn't look too great. But I think they're going to be able to move the ball on Georgia Tech. I don't know what to think about the Tech defense the last couple of times out. My only hesitation here, I think the numbers say play Pitt, but this is just one of those where I kind of feel it like maybe Haynes King is just going to have a great performance and find a way to win for Georgia Tech. It's a tough game to call here, Phil. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with Pitt to pull the upset here. When you look at Georgia Tech, I know their worst situation is being a big favorite. We've seen them struggle as big favorites. Their best situation, take on a ranked team, be an underdog, and they're in good shape. They are taking on a very good Pitt team, so maybe they'll come fully prepared for this one. Defense is a major question mark in my mind. I mean, they're allowing teams 45 yards per game above their average. So you come in averaging 350, you're going to get 395 against them. Offensively, they're dynamic with Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, and even Hosley's really emerged at the running back spot. So I like their offense. I'm not wild about their defense whatsoever. And with Pitt, look at their 3 losses. They had West Virginia, a game they led in the fourth quarter. Louisville, a team they also led by two scores. And then last week against Notre Dame, as much as Narduzzi said that, and really when you looked at the schedule, these final 2 games are all that matter to Pitt. Win these 2, you have a shot at getting the ACC title game. You have a shot at making the playoff. You knew that would be the thing. But what the hell? We have Desmond Reed in the game in the third quarter. And then Reed gets injured because he was using them so much. Reed was their most explosive weapon. I do like how Turner and Goff run the football, but they're not quite Desmond Reed. So I'm a little concerned there. But last week they took on Notre Dame's defense. Now they're taking on Georgia Tech's defense. So Mason Henschel, who was 5-0 straight up in ATS as a starting quarterback, struggled last week, only threw for 149 yards, absorbed 4 sacks. He's going to have a much better game here. I like the over. I think both teams are going to move the ball, but I'm always going to go with the better defense. I think Pitt's got a shot at pulling the upset here.
Like that over too. Okay.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. 62.5. A little
I'm
high.
going to make a note of that.
Yeah. Put that one in the back burner. Absolutely.
We didn't have that one highlighted. I like that.
We sure did not. All right, let's go to the Swamp, Phil. Number 20, Tennessee, invading Gainesville at 7:30. If you haven't figured it out by now, I like to look at series history. I really enjoy doing that every time I get a big matchup like this one. Well, the series history for the Vols against Florida in Gainesville, not good. They've lost 10 in a row going back to the Tim Tebow days in Florida. All right. The Gators also are honoring Urban Meyer for his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. So the Swamp, Ben O'Griffith Stadium, going to be as juiced up as ever with Tennessee coming into town. Now, you look at the game. Both quarterbacks, Joey Aguilar, DJ Lagway, prone to the turnover. DJ Lagway leads the SEC in interceptions with 13, but Tennessee's secondary has been a little suspect. The Vols are laying 4.5 on the road. Is Tennessee finally going to break this long losing streak in Gainesville, or is Florida going to get him again?
Yeah, I think if there's ever a year for Heupel and company to break through and get a win in the Swamp, it'd be this one. So I think it's a highly important game for Tennessee to do that. Now, I liked Florida last week, plus the points against Ole Miss. They only trailed by 3 late, gave up that late touchdown, lose by 10, but the spread was never in question in that game. I think you hit it on the head. The way to beat Tennessee is throwing the football, and I just don't have the confidence in DJ Lagway that he's going to be able to exploit that like the teams that have beat Tennessee have exploited them and beat them this year. So I think it'll be a good game, but I'm going to lean with Tennessee to go grab that win while they've got the chance. While you've got Florida down, go get that win in the Swamp, and then you don't have that hanging over your head anymore. I'll lean a little bit with Tennessee minus the points in this one.
All right, let's jump back to the Big Ten, Phil. Interested to see what you think about Illinois and Wisconsin. You've kind of been on the Badgers the last couple of weeks. Illinois is 7.5-point favorite on the road. What's your What's your take on this one?
Yeah, and it's tough to go against Illinois. They're trying for a 10-win season right now, and Brett Bielema's really got them playing extremely strong. I like the way they beat both Maryland and Rutgers the last 2 weeks. They've got Luke Altmaier, and really they've got more talent overall. As you know, Wisconsin's down to a fourth-string quarterback, and their running back guy Tuca got hurt, I believe, against Indiana as well, and he had really impressed me the previous couple of weeks. So, but this Badger defense is really good, and they're at home. I really can't pick this game. I'm going to leave it up to one of you two guys. Who's got this one?
Tripp's got it.
All right. I've got a lean here on Wisconsin getting over the touchdown at home. This would be 4 covers in a row for the Badgers. So a little bit playing the streak here, but I also think the under we could take a look at. It was 41.5 yesterday. Now I'm seeing it down to 40.5, but Illinois kind of returned to form after back-to-back losses against Ohio State and UW. They've won in cover. I can see the route where if Illinois takes care of business and they win the game, it could still be a low-scoring game. And if Wisconsin is competitive, the defense really hasn't been the big issue for the Badgers. It's been more on the offensive side of the ball. So I think the under would be the way I would lean here. But if it keeps falling down, I'm going to lose interest. 41.5. I was on the under. That was my pick yesterday. So we'll see where that line ends up finishing.
Okay, good. Anytime you got Wisconsin, they are pure defensive. I mean, their defense is outstanding. Their offense is struggling, and they run a little bit of option now with Carter Smith at quarterback. So the under makes sense. Good call there, Tripp.
All right, Phil, I'm really interested to see what you've got in this game. We got North Texas at Rice at 7:30. Now, North Texas is the better team. Like, that obvious. They're in a 4-way logjam for 2 spots in the American Championship game, and it seems like the winner of that right now is the inside track to the CFP. But sneaky game on tap with Rice. They got to face the option, which could mean minimal time of possession for Drew Mestemaker. UNT, though, they've been blowing people out. The spread of 18.5, not shocking. They won by 38, 34, 14, and 29 points the last few weeks. I don't know. I mean, I think North Texas is going to win, but like a lot of points for an option team. Like, what do you think here with North Texas at Rice?
Yeah, it wouldn't be one of my favorite plays on the board whatsoever. I lean with North Texas just for the fact that last week I liked UAB and they covered that game. Although, I mean, you look at the yards are within like 20 yards in that game. The problem was UAB was -4 in turnovers. And UAB is also among the nation's leader in going for it on 4th down. I got stopped on downs a couple of times. That's why it was a blowout on the final scoreboard, but the game itself was a lot closer than that. I think the fact that North Texas played Army earlier this year is going to help them against the option. And really, this Rice offense, they're just struggling. I mean, they've got 6 games this year where they've had under 300 yards offense. They're averaging 273 yards per game in conference play. So I'm a little leery going against North Texas after I liked UAB last week and they covered that one. So I'm going to lean with North Texas, but it wouldn't be one of my strongest plays whatsoever.
All right, we've got a 7:45 kick for Western Kentucky and LSU. Watch out for those toppers. You're getting 22.5 on the road at LSU. This game might feel like a week off for the Tigers, but remember, earlier in the season, Louisiana Tech went down there to Death Valley. They really put up a fight. I mean, could this be a similar situation for WKU? They're 8-2 against the spread this season. The problem is Western Kentucky is going to always try to get it done through the air. And that's really against a big strength for LSU, that pass defense. I love the spot for Western Kentucky this week. I just don't love it all the way the styles match up. I just don't think their style of play matches up very good against LSU. What's your feel on this one?
I think the style and more so the situation completely favor LSU here. And I'm saying completely. When they played Louisiana Tech earlier in the year, they had just come off the big win against Clemson, and they had Florida on deck. We're playing who? What? Yeah. And so they didn't even care about the game. This is your final home game for the seniors for LSU. They still have when you look at their overall record, they can still finish this year 8-4, 9-4 at the end of the year. And the thing about Western Kentucky to look at here, two things. The first thing is next week, they play at Jacksonville State. And when they play at Jacksonville State next week, the winner is in the CUSA title game. So this game, much like LSU's game against Louisiana Tech earlier, this game's meaningless to Western Kentucky. What matters is who wins that game next week. Because if they lose to Jack State, they're not in the CUSA title game. Then I look at how Coach Helton does in these type of games. Last year they played Alabama. They lost 63-6 in that game. Now, 2 years ago, they were playing Ohio State, and I had the over in that game. And in the first half, Western Kentucky was trying a little bit, and it was 42-10 at the half. In the second half, this explosive Western Kentucky offense, he basically put them away. He's like, you know what? We're not going to win the game. I don't care about the game. I want to keep my guys healthy. And in the second half, they had barely any yards at all. And Ohio State went on to a 63-10 win. So if you're Coach Helton, you're keeping your guys healthy, getting them ready for Jack State. That's my priority this week. We're playing who? Oh, LSU. Yeah. Death Valley at night. I'm going to take LSU minus the points here, Trip.
All right, Phil, 8 p.m. kickoff in Cincinnati. Huge game in the Big 12. Number 11 BYU at the Bearcats. Really tough one to call here, especially, we've talked about it all year. BYU, how do you bet the Cougars? Do you bet with them? Do you bet against them? I don't know if you have a side here. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, and this is one where Cincinnati, I had Cincinnati against Arizona last week, and I was feeling pretty good at the half. It was 14-10. Thought we'd be in pretty good shape. But then Sorsby just seemed a little unnerved by that Arizona pass D that you brought up earlier, which was number 1 in the country. And they didn't look good at all in the second half, ended up losing that one at home. Now they're taking on the number 2 pass defense in the country, BYU. As you mentioned, BYU is a team that is basically won all their games. I loved the BYU game last week. It was one of my top plays of the week, and they absolutely crushed TCU. Bear Bachmeier's like 245, 250 pounds. He's a dangerous runner and passer, and they're playing great. But this is a big chance for Cincinnati to really keep it going. So I'm torn on this game. I'm hoping one of you guys has a side here.
So it's not my favorite play of the week. Certainly not a lock of the year because it's BYU's involved. Can't have it. Just like Northwestern. Can't have it. But I'm going to lean with the home team here, Cincinnati, to cover the 2.5. And here's why. First of all, Cincinnati hasn't been a home underdog all season. So a little bit of disrespect for Cincinnati in that factor, being a home underdog. It's also, you just mentioned senior night for LSU. It's senior night for Cincinnati. And you look at their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby. His numbers, better at home. So BYU's coming in. They're trying to stay in contention for the Big 12 title game. You got a Cincinnati team that's lost 2 straight, hungry for a win, possibly a little disrespected, getting points at home. I think this is finally the time we get it right. Betting against BYU, Cincinnati plus 2.5.
There you go, David. Good call.
I hate Cincinnati this week. I'm just kidding.
Double down, baby. Make it 2 lunch bets. Make it 2.
Any interest in an over there? 54.5. Sorsby, like you mentioned, Phil, he just didn't look right in the second half last week. But if they get it back on track, I could easily see that game going over 54.5. Do you have any kind of read on that?
Yeah, BYU does have the number 2 pass defense. Arizona's the number 1. So I don't know if Sorsby's going to get it back on track for that type of, to cover that many points.
Okay. All right. Where are we at next? Is it back to me here?
Back to you.
All right. Arizona State at Colorado. Another interesting game here. We should see Jeff Sims again at quarterback for Arizona State this weekend. Appears Sam Leavitt's done for the year. All kinds of stories out there about him right now, possible transfer, and I'm sure he's going to be someone very valued in the portal coming up. But Arizona State able to win a couple in a row without him at Iowa State and against West Virginia last week. Sun Devils are favored by 7.5 at Colorado. As bad as Colorado's been of late, I still find it kind of hard to trust Arizona State and Jeff Sims to lay over a touchdown on the road. What do you like here, Phil?
Yeah, I like Colorado at home for numerous reasons. First of all, if you watch the Arizona State-West Virginia game last week, Rich Rod, after the game, was just super angry that his team didn't win. I thought they were the better team. They had more first downs, more yards. They just couldn't get a couple of short yardage runs. They couldn't get the first down. They ended up losing by 2. So I thought West Virginia, a fairly weak team. And if you look at my average game grades in that game, Arizona State won at home against West Virginia. They graded out a 96.1 because of the yardage, because of the fact they were at home and they were playing West Virginia. Now, in their last game, Colorado played West Virginia. They went on the road and lost by 7, but they actually, the yards were close, and they played a really good game at West Virginia. My average game grade actually gave them 101 for playing that game. So against West Virginia, my computer liked Colorado better than what it saw at Arizona State. Now, Colorado's outstanding off a bye. It's their second straight week in the altitude. That's a nice advantage to have. I remember way back when the Denver Broncos, it was almost an automatic play. Second straight week in the altitude, they win every game. They won like 9 in a row at one point. I think that factors in. I like the way Colorado's played at home this year. You look at the fact that they beat Wyoming. They nearly beat BYU, only lost by 3. They upset Iowa State at home. So they've played pretty good. And then the final factor, while Arizona State's down to Jeff Sims, and really he's a turnover machine, they've kept the throttled. They've kept him throttled. He only has 1 interception, but he also isn't as dangerous as he could be. Juju Lewis. Now, they brought him in the fourth quarter against Arizona. They're like, all right, we tried Salter, we tried Saab, we tried all these guys. Let's go with Juju. And he's the guy that in the magazine I projected #1 for Colorado State's quarterbacks. Juju moved him, got him a touchdown against Arizona. I thought he looked really good against West Virginia. In fact, I had West Virginia -6.5 in that game, and I was sweating bullets the whole game because Juju was moving Colorado all over the field. So I like the fact that Colorado's off a bye at home in the altitude, and I'm just not impressed with Arizona State, more impressed with Colorado. Look for Juju to have a big game here. I like Colorado to spring the upset.
Okay.
Phil, I have a question on your computer's average game grade. What's the scale there? Because West Virginia got a 101. So what's the scale that you have?
Oh, it can go up to like 135, but it could go as low as 50. So I mean, it was a good grade.
Okay, good. There we go. That's what I was curious about. I didn't know if you gave them bonus points for over 100.
No, it's not up to 100. No, it's up to like 145. I think is a high.
All right, very good. So it's kind of like passer rating. Okay, very good. All right, last game of the slate in Week 13 that we're going to talk about. 10:30 kickoff, Washington at UCLA. Simply put, Washington is a better team at home than they are on the road. We've discussed this. Simply put, that's really all I needed to look at in this one. If you look a little deeper, I know Washington is hotter. They've won 4 of the last 6. UCLA's dropped 3 in a row. But like I said, Washington is on the road. That's all you need to know, right, Phil? I mean, they're favored by 10.5, but that's all I need to know. It doesn't matter. They're on the road.
I think you hit it on the head, David. In fact, I told you about the podcast I do with Stephen Hartzell, Wayne Cook I do it Tuesday night with him, but they air it on Wednesday. I finally have a Wayne Cook play on my Phil Steele Plus tour, and it is UCLA this week, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, UCLA in the last 3 games, they lost at Indiana and at Ohio State. Well, that's the top 2 teams in the country. And they also lost to Nebraska by 7 at home. That really wasn't a bad game. In fact, I had Nebraska in that game, and it concerned me that we only won by 7. So UCLA, I think, is still playing with enthusiasm for their interim head coach. And the one thing is, a lot of people, when they recap the Ohio State game last week, they're, the Buckeyes were dominant. They didn't mention that Nico didn't play in the game. And Nico Iamaleava sat out the game against Ohio State. He's back at practice. He will play here. So I think we're going to see the UCLA team that beat Penn State at home, that played and beat Maryland at home, and gave Nebraska a game. I'm looking for good enthusiasm from UCLA in their final home game. Meanwhile, Washington, you hit on the head, David. How about this record in the Big Ten? On the Big Ten road, they are 1-7 straight up, 0-8 against the spread. The only game they won, they trailed Maryland 20-0 in the third quarter. Got a miracle finish at the end and won by 4. Other than that, they'd be 0-8 straight up. So asking them not to just win this game on the road, but win and cover 10.5 points, I'm taking UCLA plus the 10.5 here and a possible upset.
Yeah, Washington, Huskies, just auto fade them on the road. I think that's just going to be a new rule on the show here. All right, Phil, that's the Week 13 slate. Time for the top 3 plays of the week. We mentioned it earlier in the show, 19-4-1 over the last 8 weeks. That's pretty damn good. What do you got this week for us?
Well, 2 games that we just talked about. I'm in both upsets. I'm going with Colorado plus the points over Arizona State, and UCLA plus the points over Washington. And then the Stephen Hartzell play. It's a game that's off the board, off the radar. You've got a 4-6 Texas State team against a 3-7 UL Monroe team. I like Texas State a lot. Texas State's four plays away from being 8-2. They're absolutely dominant at home, averaging close to 200 yards per game. ULM's been getting blown out on a weekly basis. Texas State will put the hammer down. I like Texas State minus 17.5 over ULM as my third play.
All right, David, you had a week off. You were on your bye week last week, so you're off a bye, looking to continue on your, 4 in a row?
4 in a row.
4 in a row. What do you got for us this week?
I'm going to make up for not submitting a play last week. I'll put in 2. All right.
Oh,
We'll double up. All right. We're starting with the autofill play. Oklahoma minus 7.5. All the way in. And then we will ride the current location that I'm in. Fayetteville, Arkansas. Arkansas plus 8.5. Put all the chips in, baby. We're going double SEC in week 13. Locks.
Is this your parlay of the year, David?
Parlay of the year. Put them together. Why not?
Hey, man, if you want to lock this week, just look no further. Again, I mean, smartest team in the world. Going into Carter Finley without a top 25 ranking. Florida State's been playing it all year. Take the Noles to cover this week. I don't know. I've got a couple extra plays. I actually lean Oregon a little bit. I know Phil likes USC. There's going to be plenty of people on opposite sides of that game. But I mentioned I got on Kentucky earlier. I've got them at 10.5. But I can't wait to watch the Pitt and Georgia Tech game. I think it's going to be a fascinating game. And I think that's a coin flip game. But we've got a great, people sometimes they get down on these slates. Don't get down on them. We've only got 2 of them left. This is college football, and it doesn't get any better than that. We do want to, Phil, before we jump out of here, do you want to remind everybody one more time about philsteele.com, taking the tour, inside the press box, all that good stuff?
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, take the Phil Steele Plus tour. Get yourself 6 free selections and 6 quick hitters absolutely free. The free selections are 21-9-1 the last 6 weeks. Quick hitters 31-14. Plus, you get to see how Phil Steele Plus works. I give you complete examples. I break down the numbers. They're color-coded green and red, and really gives you good reasoning behind each play, so you can play them with confidence.
All right, and David, you know where I got this hat from? Why don't you tell everybody about Home Field Apparel?
Well, Tripp, you got it from Home Field Apparel. And in the season of giving, we're giving you 15% off Home Field Apparel at homefieldapparel.com. Just use the code PHIL15. That's PHIL15. 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. They've got quality, thoughtful apparel for over 190 colleges and universities across the country. It's incredible stuff. They just released those Game Breaker jackets. They're coming out with new stuff all the time. I don't believe they are anywhere this week. They were in Athens last week. I don't think they're anywhere this week on a tour, but still, go to homefieldapparel.com. The holiday season is coming up. Black Friday deals are coming up soon, but we've had the Black Friday deal all year long. Phil15, 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Go get you some. By the way, Tripp, I just called my bookie and told him to take USC because you faded Phil. So, big mistake.
That's been a good strategy over the years here. Definitely trust Phil on his plays over mine. That's the show for week 13. Next week, Thursday, happens to fall on Thanksgiving. Are we going to take the day off? Absolutely not. We're going to move it up to 9 a.m. Eastern time. Phil Steele Show will be back next Thursday, and we'll have some more picks for you then. That's a show, guys. Appreciate your time, Phil, and enjoy the games this weekend, folks.